Everything's on. Everything's working. It's Monday and we're back in the office. It's a thing. Hope you had a great weekend. Mine was busy. It was busy, real busy. Not in a bad way, just real busy. And I can tell you that busy is good unless you like sleep. Anyway, my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police Service. I talk about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff every single day, and today is no different. So if you've got traffic questions, we've got traffic answers. If you'd like to know about stuff and things before you make choices behind the wheel, on the street, behind the handlebars, it's a good place to ask them. So you can know stuff before you do stuff so you don't get charged with stuff, which usually results in an unhappy ending where you get a ticket, have to pay some money, lose some points, and affect your insurance rates. And not to mention the possibility of hurting somebody. And there is no undo on that button. No undo button? Or does that button not have an undo? Whatever I was going for, you know what I meant. If you are watching us, you're probably on one of these magical solutions, these platforms, these thingamabobbers that allow you to see me talking to you. Yeah, they're right up there. TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Kick, and of course X, which is awesome. I'm a big fan of X. I wasn't originally, but I have become one recently. And that's one of the reasons they've actually fixed it so we can have that interaction thing happening where you can ask us questions. You have to click into the actual video, not just watching the preview. You can't make comments on the tweet, but you can actually go in and ask questions and be part of the show. And that's the goal. Be part of the show. The show is better because of your participation. We have a magical moderator who has claimed for himself the position of the best moderator. It says so right in his title. Yeah, he's doing a little fist bump in the background. If you ask questions, don't get frustrated when I don't answer them. It's his fault entirely. It's because he's reading through the chat and bringing questions to the forefront so I can respond to them. And that way you get a better show. If I'm busy trying to figure out what you're saying, it gets all muddy in there. If you miss the show, if you cannot actually hang out in the show, we get it. You got stuff and things to do. Know that you can download the podcast afterwards. Usually I'm pretty good about doing it right after the show, but sometimes it's a little bit of a wait. Like Saturday, for instance, I put out the Friday show because Friday I put out the Thursday show. Anyway, you can synchronize, listen on the go without breaking the law by playing with your phone. And you also don't have to burn your data. Just saying. All right, we've got, what do we got? We got this heading that I can put back up. By the way, did you notice my flag? Did you know that was an Elmer flag? Have you ever seen an Elmer flag? It's a wonderful flag, is it not? Thank you again to our magical moderator, Peter, who is putting up your G'day messages right up front so that I don't get into it. I can get into the answers of the questions and the answers and all that jazz really fast. It's something we're trying. I do like being able to acknowledge everybody individually, but this gets things through. It does. If you put the letter Q before your question, I know it's a question and not dialogue amongst yourselves, which is important. All right. Before I get into anything else, I want to acknowledge the Vision Zero enforcement team. Those are the magical officers who go out every single day changing driver behavior one ticket at a time. Yes, they are going out there to enforce the laws, and they focus on the big four. What are the big four? Big four are speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving, impaired driving, the stuff that we know leads to serious injury and death on our roads. We don't want people getting hurt. That's our big goal. People say it's to get revenue from tickets. They're wrong. This isn't a financial situation where we're trying to generate funds. This is about trying to stop lives from being lost. And it's all based on driver choice, right? Well, it's not just driver choice, it's cyclist choice and pedestrian choice too, but we know that the majority of the issues are coming from drivers who are choosing to be unsafe behind the wheel because they got somewhere to be, They're just more important than everybody else. Leave more time by leaving early. Give yourself time to make good decisions. And if you don't, you're going to be one of our magical officers. And today they're focused on Vision 0 and 11 Division and 41 Division. We're talking about Junction, Weston, High Park, Roncy, Dorset Park, Kennedy Park, Birchcliff, Cliffside, neighborhoods where real people live, work, and play and deserve to be safe. It's a thing. And we'll talk about other things later on. More in particular, we'll talk about employment because we want more magical people to join this job. We're looking for good people. Yeah. And there are opportunities all the time. It's just a matter of taking advantage of them. So when you see a posting for a job with the Toronto Police Service, what are you waiting for? Get together, Put that application in, change your life. That's what I did. Okay, let's get into some questions right off the bat. We've got a question from Sir Charles, and I'm going to jump over and take away this good morning message. But happy Monday to Oilers Snow, or is it Oilers Now? I don't know. Could be either way. Capitalization helps. Here's my question. What do I do when I have people who lack sense and drive with their high beams on? That is a problem. So many vehicles have automatic high beams now that many people get into cars with that old technology with buttons. When I was a kid, it was a foot pedal. Peter, was it a foot pedal when you were a kid? We were kids not that far apart from one another. Yeah, it used to be a foot pedal up in the top left-hand corner of the footwell. Anyway, yeah, if someone's got their high beams on, it could also be their lights just poorly directed. There's nothing wrong with giving them a quick flash. Technically, it's improper use of your headlights, but there's no other way to communicate. They can't see you otherwise because you can't see anything because they're blinding you. So that would be not an unreasonable thing. Okay. If I have tickets for my G2, can I apply for my M1 license while paying off my tickets? If your tickets mean suspension, then no. You have one license. You have different designations or endorsements that allow you to operate different types of vehicles. But if you are suspended because of unpaid tickets and you're unable to renew them, well, then you can't get your other license because you're suspended for unpaid tickets. That said, you get your ticket, you get your stuff dealt with, and you can then apply for a new license. Of course, despite what I've just said, I would totally go and ask the question because you never know unless you ask them because they are the powers that be. Okay. Kevin Dearden from LinkedIn says, good morning. I recently viewed a car with a sticker of a license plate adhered to the front bumper in place of an Ontario-issued license plate. Is that contrary to the Highway Traffic Act? Your friend, Kevin Dearden. One of the most magical people I've ever known. Kevin is probably talking about, well, actually, what pops into my mind when I see your question, Kevin, is that I saw a Car and Driver article that had a wonderfully beautiful blue, I think it was, Porsche. And on the front of the Porsche, it was a license plate in vinyl. Not legal, does not meet the requirement. It has to be the actual license plate issued by the Ministry of Transportation and given to you with that wonderful responsibility of displaying it properly. Now, my suggestion for anyone who's using a fancy pants car, and a friend of mine just recently ordered a new Porsche. We're looking forward to getting it because I'm going to do that origami thing where I fold and contort to get into it because it's electric and it's going to be cool to go for a drive in it. But tow hook adapter. Use a tow hook adapter. That would be the legal way. And of course, that sticker is, again, not legal. But I appreciate the question from LinkedIn. Kayla Draconis has a quote for later. Brandon has a question. Let's get into Brandon's question. Can a rear dash cam cottage, I think we're talking footage, be used to report someone following too close? If you can get license plates information, you can certainly make the report and use that as supporting evidence. Would we be able to lay charges on it? Maybe. You'd have to testify to the time, date, location, and if we can identify the driver based on that video, it's entirely possible that we could lay the charge for following too close. That said, what it usually results in is a letter to the registered owner and no charge being laid. If, of course, that person hits you, that becomes very fantastic, wonderful evidence because we're going to be coming to the scene, investigating that collision, most likely, and laying charges based on that evidence that you've provided. Dash cameras are my favorite thing. I totally endorse them. I think everyone should have one. I'm between dash cameras. I actually bought a new one, and it doesn't work. I even planned on doing a review of it because it was one of these cheapy Prime Day deals. I had a $600 dash cam that fried, so I was going to try and do the cheapest dash cam on that Amazon website, Prime deal. It was like $30. And if I ever get it working, I will do that video because people need to know. Hopefully I answered that question for you, Brandon. Let's see here. The Wookiee. Oh, it's a joke for later. Cool. We'll come back to that. Good morning. Is lane splitting by motorcycle riders legal in Ontario? It's amazing how many times I've asked that question because I talk about this a lot. And the answer is no, it's not legal. It's not specifically outlined in the Highway Traffic Act, but lane splitting is an action that clearly is making up the requirements for careless driving, stunt driving, or criminal dangerous driving depending on the observations made at the time. So if it's someone out there doing something that's moderate speed between traffic, maybe it's careless. You pick it up a notch and it's a little more aggressive speed, maybe it's stunt. If it's weaving through traffic at high speed, I'm going to arrest someone for criminal dangerous for that. So it depends, but it's absolutely not legal anywhere in Canada. The only place that I know for sure it's legal is in California, and even then, the Highway Patrol there says it's not safe. So do it at low speed. Speed differential is the issue. How fast you are going in relation to how fast they are going. So it's dangerous. And I totally acknowledge the benefits of it as the rider, right up until the point when someone loses a limb because the person they were, lane splitting between was on their phone and decides to zig when they should have zagged. Bad things happen. That's the reality. Are vanity plates allowed to have plate protectors? Vanity plates or any plates cannot have plate protectors, cannot have any kind of, cannot have any kind of cover, whether it be clear, tinted, frame only. If it covers any portion of the plate, it's not legal. You know what else is not legal? Covering a license plate with a bike rack. And I bring this up because I went through one of the 100 DMs I got yesterday, and the person who wrote said, I came up with a product so people with bicycle carriers won't get tickets. And I want to know if I can show people your video about how it's illegal to cover your license plate. Of course, I said, absolutely, you can show people. It's about education, so show people that video. I can't endorse the product, but I love the concept. And it looks like they have come up with a license plate relocator because even though they're available in Europe, they don't seem to be sold here. So this person has taken some initiative and has solved the problem. So, yeah, I'm sure you'll see videos helping to educate about license plate covering tickets. It's $110. Nobody wants that. Keegan wants to know, when traveling on a highway and a cop flicks their lights on, is that a warning to slow down? Sadly, I have no idea because each officer flicking or doing something could be anything, right? It could have been I slipped. It could have been there's a bee on me and trying to kill the spider. I don't know what it is. It is possible that they were trying to give a heads up to somebody. But I don't know, and unfortunately, nobody knows because everybody could have a different motivation behind their flick. But I like the question. I've never done that. I've just pulled people over and had a conversation. Oh, is it okay to drive with barefoot? Hopefully bare feet. If you're going to do it with one foot, might as well do it for both. But there is no law prohibiting you or preventing you from driving barefoot in Ontario. There may be laws elsewhere that are different. But I will say this. If you are in an emergency situation and you decide to smash that brake pedal, you're probably going to hurt your toesies because they're not supported by that, the sole of your shoe. The fact is you're used to driving one way and barefoot isn't it. So while there may be no law preventing you from doing it, it's generally not considered a good idea. And aside from the concept of the driving, what happens if you get into a collision? There's broken glass, there's fluids, possibly fire, maybe some battery acid or stuff that's not going to feel too friendly on those toes of yours. You may have to run and or climb out of a vehicle that's burning or crushed or whatnot. Having shoes on is a pretty good idea. And I'll always refer to Jason Bourne, at least I think it's Jason Bourne, who said, never wear anything you can't run in. I'm down with that. All right. A question. My wife is asking me questions. Hang on a second. The battery has gone dead somewhere on something making a beeping sound at home. Okay. Are electric bikes considered a motor vehicle? Does it need insurance? So this is something we're going to get into right now. It's one of those things that is near and dear to my heart. I have an electric bike. Actually, I have two of them. I even have an electric scooter. And what makes it legal versus not legal is whether or not it meets the requirements under law. So the Highway Traffic Act says that if you have a bicycle that is powered that has the ability to be driven by power, the criminal code will say that is a motor vehicle. Criminal code is for things like DUI and whatnot. If you're talking about the ability to operate it on the streets of Ontario, which is what the Ontario Highway Traffic Act deals with, we're talking about a vehicle that conforms being given the benefits of being a bicycle, even though it has a motor and would otherwise be a motorcycle. But like a moped, for instance, gas-powered, has pedals, it's a motorcycle now. It's not a bicycle, even though it has a motor and pedals. So people often think, okay, if it's got pedals, it's a bicycle. No, if it's got an engine, it's a motorcycle. Now, if it meets the requirements, which are maximum speed on a flat surface without assistance from muscular power, 32 kilometers an hour. It has to have no more than a 500-watt motor, weigh no more than 120 kilos. If it meets that, then it doesn't need insurance, it doesn't need a license, and doesn't need, what's the other thing? License, ownership, and insurance, plate, yeah. But if you were able to do 35 kilometers, 33 kilometers, anything over 32, then it is a motor vehicle again. It loses the benefits of the legislation making it a bicycle, and then you do need license, ownership, and insurance. So if it's legal, it's legal, and if it's not, it's not. Now, it's different with e-kick scooters because e-kick scooters have a pilot project. They're 24 kilometers an hour maximum speed capable. That doesn't mean you turn it into off-road mode to go faster and on-road mode to go slower, because that means it's capable with the flip of a switch. So if it's capable in any way, shape, or form of doing more than 24 as a scooter, e-kick scooter, or more than 32 as a bicycle, it's a motor vehicle. Simple as that. Now, e-kick scooters have very specific regulations. It says that you can only use it in municipalities that have opted in. Toronto, the city, has not opted in. In fact, they've reviewed it a number of times and continue to say that it's not going to be permitted here, which means you can get a $110 ticket for simply operating a legal scooter. One that meets with the pilot in Mississauga would come into Toronto, would be eligible for a $110 ticket. People are upset that we're going to be enforcing this, but it's a law and it should be enforced. Now, when you talk about e-bikes, well, we've always been enforcing that. If we catch you going faster than the 32s, you're going to be getting speeding tickets or all sorts of tickets, like drive no insurance and that sort of thing. Anyway, that was a very long answer for a very short question. And let's go into a question. Is it a question? Oh. Fines are doubled in community safety zones and construction zones with workers present. If both are true, are their multipliers compounded? Are the multipliers compounded? It's a great question for which I don't have an answer. I don't know if that works. I mean, it would make sense that it works. If it's a community safety zone and there's, in fact, a raising for construction zones, but I've never dealt with it, so I don't want to give you an answer that's incorrect. But we'll have to come back to it to revisit it at another time. Must the drawbar be removed from a receiver when not pulling a trailer? The drawbar? Forgive my ignorance. I don't know what a drawbar is. I know a receiver with a ball does not have to be removed. Let's googly-goo what a drawbar is. Is that for towing a vehicle? Drawbar. Is it draw? No, hang on a second. Timber drawbar. I don't know. What is the drawbar on a trailer? Steel that connects the body of the trailer to the coupling. I don't know if we're talking the right thing. So that, if you're taking a vehicle that is being towed by another vehicle, sometimes there'll be that big triangle that folds down. If that's what you're talking about, I see them pinned and properly stowed. I've never had an issue with them being on the vehicle, even if it's not being towed. I don't have an answer for that one either. Oh, joy, 2 for 2 with things I don't know. Can I use a dirt bike in Toronto? If your dirt bike is in fact licensed for the road because it's a dual sport, it was designed and manufactured, and it has headlights and bell and horn, or not bell, it's a motorcycle, horn and signals. If it has everything required to be on the road and is licensed for the road, then yes. If it is truly an off-road dirt bike, then no. Not only can it not be used in Toronto, it cannot be used in the province of Ontario on the road. It's not legal. And you're not insured. So that means in addition to everything else, you would be charged for drive motor vehicle with no insurance, because the insurance for theft and possibly for trail use doesn't cover you for road use. Okie dokie. Moving on. Recently happened to me. What should you do at a railway crossing if the arms malfunction and won't go back up? Can't legally park to grab phone. Can't U-turn at railway crossing? Interesting question. Well, you can't go through. There is a telephone number posted at the railway crossing. You can park the car. You're now in a stuck situation. You can't turn around. You can't go anywhere. I would pull over, or simply, if everyone else is there stuck and park and waiting, call the number. Notify rail control that is malfunctioning, and they'll tell you exactly what to do. And in those circumstances, there's nobody who's going to give you a U-turn ticket when the crossing is malfunctioning, and you can't leave people there for a week at a time. I love the questions. Chase is an awesome dude with awesome questions who is always supportive of the show. So thank you. What is this? Commercial motor vehicle fall under personal use laws on the weekends for X hours of service. Huh. We're getting all the good stuff today. A commercial motor vehicle is a commercial motor vehicle as far as I can tell. I don't think that they get any special privileges if you're using it for personal use. A dump truck is a dump truck is a dump truck. Maybe you're talking about a vehicle that is just a work truck. Is that what it is? Maybe you can clarify for me. We'll come back to it. Do TPS traffic services members ever work projects with OPP Highway Safety Division and MTO members? All the time, Pete. We actually work on projects like the Noisemaker project. What is the other one I'm thinking of? But we go after all the stunt vehicles together. We often work together. And OPP partners with us for winter driving safety. MTO often comes out for that as well. At the end of the day, we're all police and people who are serving the public, and we team up for these projects together on a regular basis. Have you ever heard anything from Ford Driving Skills for Life? I had been in conversation with them, and last I heard they were not going to do Toronto this year. They just announced, I saw that they did it in another region. I don't know if it was Niagara, but if you go to Ford Driving Skills for Life, and let's actually go to Ford Driving Skills for Life. It's a long domain. Ford Driving Skills for Life. Let's try .ca. Because, that's just, try that again. Windsor, August 24th and 25th. Is that the only one? Training events, let's see. It is the only one. I might have to promote this. Windsor, Ontario. It is for August 24th. There's an AM and PM session. And Windsor, Ontario on August 25th, AM and PM session. Now, there's nobody in the waiting list right now. They have 57 spots available in the morning on August 24th, 38 open spots on the 24th in the afternoon, 58 open spots on the Sunday at in the AM session, and 30 open spots in the afternoon. This is possibly the best opportunity to get free driver training you're ever going to get. Now, you have to have a G1 or better, and ideally they'd like this to be young drivers, because this whole project funded by the Ford Foundation is to specifically address the young people who are overrepresented in fatal collisions. So they are doing great work to help you. So if you know a young person who would benefit for some free driver training, let them know, because free is awesome. Yeah, I'm going to have to do a video to promote it. Totally. Chase, thank you very much for bringing it up. I was talking to somebody yesterday about it, but I had never made it to their site. The throw and pray. What does a green plate do to my vehicle, though? Custom plates don't make my EV gas-powered. Oh. This is the discussion as to what gives you authority to be on the the what's it called? The green lanes, the HOV lanes solo. So the plate is what gives you the authority, and it's not just EV; it's all sorts of things, and things change. So just being electric isn't sufficient. Now, Sergeant Campbell had said that, well, he thinks that it might still be valid. I know they're ticketing for them, so I don't think that's the case. If you have a green plate and you decide to swap that for a custom plate or a vanity tag, you lose your privileges. That's how it's being enforced right now, until there's some other mission. But yeah, it doesn't make it gas powered. It's just that the qualifier for the lane is not your engine. The engine is a qualifier to get the plate. The plate is what gets you the ticket to the party. Is it a stunt driving charge when being passed on the shoulder? What do you mean? Depends. No. Passing. So the stunt driving could be part of it. If you're making, what would it be? Specifically, passing on the shoulder isn't a stunt charge on its own. But if but there are laws that deal with that. So I need to know more. Are we talking about on the highway? Are we talking like an expressway, limited access, or limited access, controlled access? That's what I was looking for. Expressway, parkway, highway. Are we talking about just a rural road where someone's slowing down to make a left turn and someone passes on the shoulder? I need to know more, but because there's exemptions for certain things. All right. G80, is it Caleb? It's the law, but why do we need a front plate in Ontario when it's not required in other provinces? Well, because it's the law, and it is required in this province and some other places, and other provinces can make their own rules, even if they're wrong. Okay, so when Premier Ford came into office, he said, I'm going to look into getting rid of the front plates because I could save half the money on producing those plates. One plate versus two means it's cheaper. And people rejoiced. And then he went to his trusted advisors, the chiefs of police, and they came together and said, hang on a second. One plate means we get half as many opportunities to identify the vehicle. And we need to identify vehicles. There's all sorts of good reasons for it. And there are good reasons for it. So they said, okay, fine, we're going to keep the 2 plates. It's required by law, and that's why you must do it. If they change the law, then you won't have to do it. But tow hook adapters rock. Use that, and that's it. That's my answer. Can you be insured and licensed ATV be used on the roads in Ontario? Sorry, can an insured and licensed ATV be used on the roads in Ontario? Depends on which roads. Different municipalities allow them on the road. Some municipalities don't, and that really depends on the municipality. Again, Toronto does not allow them on the road, but some rural places, some places do. And there's conditions as to when you can use them, and that you have to have a license. And depending on the speed limit of the road, you can only go up to a certain speed. It's not a replacement for a car or motorcycle. What are your thoughts on loud exhausts? I think they're loud, they're annoying, they're obnoxious, they negatively impact communities. I know that there's a lot of people who don't like them, and in truth, I can appreciate them for a moment at a car show, but I don't like them. And I refer to the Hondas with their pop fart cans as fart cans because they don't sound good. They don't. Maybe when I was 16, I thought they did, but they don't. There is something different about a muscle car with a throaty rumble, but that isn't something that people are complaining about because it doesn't resonate the same way as the pop of the ridiculous cars and the pop can farting of the ones that people bought cheap cans of Canadian Tire. Anyway, I recently met with Ingrid, a friend of mine who actually has an organization called No More Noise Toronto, and we did a podcast episode that I'm currently editing, and it's amazing, and you will find it so interesting. I believe that because she's done studies. She's got numbers. What you don't know about noise pollution when it comes to unnecessary noise from a motor vehicle, you will know after you see the episode. So I look forward to posting that soon. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, things you never thought you'd know. And then you will know them. And then you'll move on without noise or something like that. Why don't dump trucks, etc., have to have a license plate on the back? Well, they do, Mud Pie. They do. In fact, I used to do blitzes in 12 Division when I worked in 12 Division. We'd stop all the dump trucks and we'd give them all tickets. Not only do dump trucks have to have license plates in the back, they have to be illuminated at night. So very often the license plate is relocated somewhere outside of where you'd normally look for them, way up top of the bucket, or the is it a bucket? Whatever it is, the thing in the back. On the door, they put it there to avoid having gravel and whatnot get, damage the plate. But when they do that, they don't think about the fact that they're relocating a plate and not putting a light on it. So they absolutely have to have plates just like everybody else. Can you legally drive an e-dirt bike on the street, or are they only for off-road use? Robbie, they are only for off-road use. An e-dirt bike is an electric motorcycle. It is not an electric bicycle. Having battery versus gas does not give you a license to be anywhere you want. So many people believe, and I don't understand this, because Harley-Davidson makes an electric motorcycle, so do many other manufacturers, but they're clearly motorcycles, and so are dirt bikes. They do 80 kilometers, if not miles an hour, and have no place on the road, unless they're licensed for the road, and they're paying for license insurance and a license plate, and they've been safetied and confirmed as safe for the road. But no. These Surons and whatnot are not legal for the road. They're way too fast. And people say, well, what's the big deal? And then I make faces. All right. What's the difference between a traffic officer and a regular police officer? A regular police officer is not only, a traffic officer is not only a regular police officer, but they have a specialty in traffic. Like the ETF, our tactical team has a specialty in tactical stuff and things. We are the specialists in the city of Toronto for traffic investigation, the Highway Traffic Act, and all things with wheels. I know this because whenever there's a question about wheels, they ask us. Now, I ask machine gun questions at the ETF because they know machine guns. I don't. Well, okay, I don't know a lot about them, but I know a little. We have specialists in financial crime. We have specialists in all sorts of areas, and we specialize. That's how you get really high-quality individuals to take on information. Instead of just having general information, we get people to become specialists, experts, and breath technicians, drug recognition evaluators, all sorts of specialties, and they're all in this building, at least the traffic ones. So great question. Thank you for asking it. Timothy wants to know, let's see here. Good morning. I have my G2 and I asked to use my buddy's car, but he told me that his insurance will not allow a G2 to drive it. It's possible. So it's entirely possible that an insurance company, which is a private company that is making an arrangement with you, the customer, sets limits to that relationship. They may say that no one under the age of 25 can operate a motor vehicle. Now, that is something between the insurance company and the client. From a policing perspective, you can absolutely drive any vehicle that is insured for the road, and you are licensed to drive and have permission of the owner or person in charge of it. So generally speaking, if I have a car, my friend says they want to borrow it, I can certainly lend it to them if they have a valid license. Now, I would suggest going to TrafficCop.ca and using the link to the ministry's license checker. If you're going to let somebody use your car, make sure their license is valid, because sure, everyone thinks their license is valid, but do you actually know if it's valid? They have a free website to check it. Now, if your buddy, before you get to your buddy, if you live with your mom and dad, it's your mom and dad's car, the insurance companies generally want you to be listed as a person on the policy, and that's their right to do that. So if you got pulled over by police driving mom and dad's car without being on the policy, you wouldn't get a ticket from us. But if you had got into a collision, they could deny the claim because the owner let someone who wasn't on the policy drive, and that person lived with them. It's between you and the provider, the insurance provider. That's it. Now, back to your buddy, whether he just doesn't want to loan you the car or he can't because of the insurance policy is, at the end of the day, you can't because you don't have authority given by them to let you do it. What is this? Can you tow someone's vehicle if they parked in your driveway? Yes, you can. However, there's a condition. You can absolutely have them towed. However, you may have to pay for that towing. That's the problem. You have to sign authority as the representative of the property to the tow company. The tow company may seek for you to pay for that tow. But if it's on the street and it's obstructing your driveway, it's totally different. If it's on the street, they'll tow it at no cost. Call parking enforcement. They'll come in and investigate. What is this? Can you park on a speed bump? Daniel, I don't know. I can't see why not. If it's legal to park there, you can't park across the speed bump. That would be blocking the road and bad. But if your vehicle is on one side and the other side of a speed bump, assuming you're not bottoming out on it, I'm assuming that you could. But follow the signs. Follow the signs. Signs everywhere are signs. Okay. Question. The no front license plate provinces being wrong is fighting words. Yeah, I like making fun of them. How much can you lower the car? This is a question for Juan Gonzalez. So, generally speaking, from a police perspective, we don't investigate how many inches or centimeters you've lowered it, although I did see a vehicle that was being measured by state troopers because they had the front of the vehicle much lower, the rear of the vehicle much lower than the front of the vehicle, which is illegal and dangerous. But we are generally looking for body rub, proof of contact, rub from the body to the tire to the frame, tire to the body, any kind of contact. Lock to lock, we'll do an investigation, inspection. And at that point, you can be taken out of service. We'll pull your license plates and you have to go apply for a new safety certificate. But in terms of how low can you go, from my understanding, it's about 2 inches. But here's something else to consider. We will look at the center of your headlights to the ground. There is a maximum and a minimum, and it's all found inside of the light truck and passenger vehicle guide or inspection guide, which is basically what all the mechanics are using to determine whether or not your vehicle is safe. It tells you what's in and what's out. If it's out, they can pull your plates. Okay. Bry Guy says, okay, seriously, you need to be a voice actor. Answer my question about micromobility in Toronto, please. Bry Guy, what's your question about micromobility in Toronto? I want to answer it, but our esteemed moderators have not flagged the question, just this comment. So I'll see if we can find it, or maybe Peter sees it. I don't know. We'll get back to you. Peter says, don't bash me. He specifically feels attacked right now. Can e-scooters drive on the shoulder of highways? And the answer is, do you know what a highway is? Highway is any road in the province of Ontario. And a controlled access highway is what I think you're talking about, like the 401. The answer is e-scooters cannot be on those roads. It's controlled access, and they're not allowed access because if they're legitimate vehicles, like legitimate legal e-kick scooters or e-bikes, they're not permitted there. They're considered bicycles. Stay off. You need to have a motor vehicle capable. Actually, I think it's over 50 cc's was the old regulation. I don't know if that's changed. The standards for which, but bicycles are specifically not allowed. Let's see. If I buy a car off someone, am I allowed to drive the car to the mechanic or to home without plates? And the answer is no. No. You can get a temporary plate issued for that vehicle as long as you have insurance for it, even if that's a transfer into your name. If you have plates that are registered or that are not registered to another vehicle. So let's say you owned a vehicle, you sold the vehicle, you have unattached plates because the ministry has acknowledged the removal of the vehicle from your collection, but you have plates that are unattached. Those plates can be used on a vehicle that you've purchased from some guy, and then as long as you have insurance on them, you have 6 days. But ultimately, my suggestion would be easy peasy, go to the ministry, transfer ownership at that moment, put it into temporary status plates, at which point you get 10 days to get to the mechanic, as long as the vehicle's in fit status. And that would be my suggestion. People who live in their vehicles, RV/van, what are the laws around drinking alcohol while parked? Well, an RV, not a van, but an RV, or I guess a van that is considered an RV, and becomes a temporary dwelling. So just a regular van isn't necessarily an RV, but an RV does get the benefit of being a temporary domicile if it's set up and parked for the night. That doesn't mean parked at McDonald's parking lot. It means parked somewhere for the night with permission to be there. It's one of those quirky, strange environments that is the only motor vehicle that isn't always a motor vehicle according to the law. Boats that are anchored are the similar situation. Now, I don't know about the ins and outs. Does it have to be connected to a sewage system? Does it have to have a toilet on board? I don't know. But more on that we'll have to get from the magical Sergeant Murray Campbell when he is here next. By the way, not here tomorrow. I am elsewhere tomorrow because I got family stuff and things. And I'll be back on Wednesday. Wednesday. Sounds like a monster truck event. Wednesday. Okay. Can there be a false reading on a breathalyzer? Could there be? So here's the deal. I'm not a breath technician. I'll tell you straight off the bat. However, the machines that are truly breathalyzers, you have to understand that the breathalyzers are scientific instruments used by qualified breath technicians who go through a series of tests to ensure that it is done correct. Oh, I speak to the devil. I was just mentioning that if the magical Sergeant Murray Campbell were around, he would know the answer to this question. Yes, it's often, this is like the second time now where I've said your name and you've just responded by appearing. Like Pokeroo is the opposite. When they said Pokeroo, the Pokeroo was never there.
That's right.
So
let's see what do we got. Let's see if I can live up to your expectations.
So
here.
First, we're finishing off with this one, and then we'll backtrack to the RV question. So, can there be a false reading on a breathalyzer? And I was explaining that they're qualified breath technicians using a scientific instrument that they're calibrating and ensuring is working properly before they're administrating any tests.
That's correct. And then it goes through an internal check every time that it is started up. And we have some tests that we do prior to putting it into service. Every, I believe it's 2 weeks, it comes back for a recalibration.
It's a lot of work in maintaining that program, and there's a full-time staff that focuses on that, and they are the best of the best in terms of, qualified, and they can do work on these machines. They get trained by the manufacturers. Like, there's a big deal.
Yep, it is. And they meet the criminal code qualifications for these.
Expert status.
And these devices meet the criminal code definition of an acceptable device.
And that's different than the roadside screening device, which could be, they say, could it give you a false reading? And that's entirely possible, but we don't use the results of a roadside screening device in court. That's to develop suspicion, and then you're still taken to do other tests. So while there are things that could lead to issues, although they do test, we do test them and ensure they're working properly. If there was a concern about the roadside device failing, you're being arrested and taken to another device where you perform twice, and you're now in that environment where we know it's working properly.
Absolutely.
So no one's going to jail or being charged criminally based on a guess or a maybe. Now, going back to the RV question, the question was, I already removed it from the screen, but it was, what's the deal with RVs and vans when you're living out of them, and alcohol? And I said, my answer, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is a van is a van, but an RV is a different status. And if it's truly an RV parked for the purposes of, like, set in stone, it's in a place where it's supposed to be parked, it turns into a temporary domicile.
That's correct. If it's in a proper parking spot, not just to the side of the road, not just in the parking lot somewhere.
So not McDonald's.
Right. Or Walmart, which sometimes allows people to stay overnight if they're in an emergency and they don't have a spot. But it has to be properly being used as a residence.
So very much like a.
I was about to say, just like a boat. So a boat has to be manufactured with a head. It has to have sleeping quarters. It has to be docked or anchored and not set in motion. And then it can be used as a.
What if you have an anchor for your RV? Because that's immediately where I went. Like, how do I know it's not going anywhere? Well, the anchor's out.
Right, or it's stopped, it's unhooked. It's or even if it's a van one, it's leveled out properly using the.
Oh, the feet are out, the leveling system,
and it's there for the purpose of spending the night.
And that's going to be up, I guess, to the officer to evaluate and make determination.
Right.
Okay. We're pretty much on the same page. I was thinking about from the perspective, and that where I really came into the Sergeant Campbell would know is, does it need a bathroom? Does an RV have to have a bathroom to get RV status, like a boat would? Because that's where I started thinking about boats and anchors, and well, they have to have bathrooms, and like.
Yeah, so a vessel actually has to have a bathroom. It has to have what they call a head, and that's in the criminal code for it to qualify. So any other vessel that does not have a bathroom and it's not there for the purpose of sleeping in doesn't qualify.
It's cool. Is the passing lane actually a fast lane? Well, this is such an interesting one to unpack, because the passing lane, the speed limit of the passing lane is the same as every other lane. It's the maximum posted speed for that road.
That's right.
So people think that the fast lane means that Mach 5 is capable.
So is it the fast lane? Yes. If you are passing to make it safer for everybody else, if you're allowed to pass, do it in the far left lane.
And if in the right lane you are doing less than the speed limit, then obviously the left is where you're going faster, which is technically no faster than the posted speed limit. But we know that people do.
You said do.
I said do. Do go faster, and that's where you want people, even if they're doing the speed limit, if that's the slowest moving vehicle, they should be in the right lane, not because you don't have the right to do it anywhere else, but because it's the safest place, because the people who are doing the do in the left lane are going to pass you on the right and make unsafe maneuvers to get past you, because they're making their own choices, whether they're right or wrong.
And you know what? I'm allowed to speed.
Legally.
That's part of my job. And I don't always drive a vehicle that you can tell is a police car. So if you're camping out in the left lane and I need to get by you, then you're not letting me do that. So you know what? Move over, pass, and then move back into the right lane again.
Europe is really good about this. Like I think everybody outside of Ontario is good about this. Something about Ontario drivers, it must be in the water, but we don't use lanes properly.
Nope, not at all. Or turn signals.
There's a bunch of things we can talk about.
Red lights, a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, the biggest one for me is the right turn on red. People do not stop for this anymore. I don't know what happened. I didn't get the memo that the law changed. So you're still expected to come to a complete stop before making a right turn on a red, and yet I see people blowing through lights nonstop.
Yep. And then people just continue to get red light tickets
Yes.
in the mail or in person.
4 in 1 day was the record that I'd heard. That was a number of years ago now. I wonder if it's higher. Short bus. Hey, short bus. What is the infraction for driving with day runners only at night? No taillights. Well, we call those ghost cars, and they're invisible, and they often get involved with collisions.
So, first of all, your headlights are improper if you're only running your daytime running lights.
Mm-hmm.
So your headlights are improper. They're improper intensity, and they're pointed differently than your regular headlights are. So there's a ticket for that. Your taillights?
Improper?
You got to have...
I love the ringtone. My favorite ringtone.
You got to have proper taillights as well.
So another 110.
At least one red light to the rear.
Yes. So if you're running a ghost car, you are looking for tickets. Tickets.
And you're going to get stopped because not only is it not safe because people can't see you, but an awful lot of people that are impaired actually drive and forget to turn their headlights on.
Borrowing other people's cars or being impaired, those are the two number one reasons. Yeah. And I've stopped so many, and many of those were impaired. It's an easy catch for me.
Yep. Now, I understand it happens. Dash lights stay on. That was a change a number of years ago. When I go from the police car to my personal car has automatic headlights. They come on automatically. But the police car doesn't.
Right. So then you stop. It's terrible.
So you have to think every single time you get in.
So really what we just need to do is get the chief to sign off on automatic headlights.
Yeah, can't afford that.
My issue is that when I take my vehicle to the shop, they turn off my automatic lights. And I'll never forget, I felt like such a bozo. I came out of a parking lot, and there was a vehicle in front of me, and the lights were out. And I'm honking, and I'm trying to get their attention, and I'm waving. And then I look down, and I realize that my headlights are out. Because I just turned my lights on and drove away. I was one of them. A cop gives you a ticket for modified exhaust, but is factor. I'm going to add a Y to that. So the police officer gives you a ticket for modified exhaust, but in fact it is factory. Can you fight it? Well, is the ticket a modified exhaust ticket, or is it an unnecessary noise ticket?
Or an improper exhaust, improper muffler. Could be that. It could be a factory one that has a hole that you've hollowed out, that you've made. There's no such ticket for modifying an exhaust.
Right. It's either improper or proper. And a lot of these new vehicles, I know that the Mustang has like a volume control on the exhaust. Well, if it's in the open mode, could we make the argument that you've modified it through, even though it's stock, making too much noise is going to be making a change to it to create more noise. And I've never laid a charge against one of these custom doodad dial a noise exhaust systems.
Well, the bypass. Bypass.
So factory bypass. Is it truly bypass, or is it just changing the way things go? Because if you're bypassing the muffler altogether, it's not legal.
That's correct. It is a bypass. It does bypass a portion of the sound muffling. So, yes.
It's interesting. If you do it aftermarket, it's absolutely prohibited. But if the way they're coming, I'd like to know more about how the Corvettes and the Mustangs are doing it, because they're doing something, and it can sometimes sound really good, but at the same time, too loud.
Yeah. The new Corvette that I was in last year at the Indy, it actually has a warning that comes up and says this may not be lawful in the jurisdiction that you're operating.
Oh, really?
In. Yep.
Okay, so they're acknowledging. So you're making a choice to put it in there.
Yep.
And then the question that came up last week, well, what happens when I get pulled over and I just press the button and I close it?
Well, guess what? We've already got the evidence because
I've already heard you, so
yep.
And we know that it's capable. I wonder if there's a record of that. Anyway, interesting things to talk about. Oh, by the way, your friend who has the Porsche, my friend just bought the same Porsche.
Oh, the
electric one.
Yes.
Hasn't received it yet. I'm looking forward to contorting myself to get into it so I could have that speed test on the track.
It's a pretty fun car. Now, he has had terrible luck with it.
Really?
Yes.
That's not good.
No, he within the first week he had it, his neighbor backed out of the driveway into the side of it.
Oof.
He had a problem with the roof is all glass, and it cracked.
That's also not good.
No, so they took it in, and he waited months and months and months for the replacement roof because the entire thing is glass. And they got it in, and they installed it.
It cracked?
And they cracked it when they were put it in.
Jeez.
So he got it back, went to the dentist, had it in a parking lot, and somebody decided to cut their turn too sharp in the parking lot. And drove right over top of the front of it.
Come on.
Yep. So he hasn't had very good luck with it.
But not mechanical issues. It's all being dumb well,
issues. I guess roof, glass,
okay. That's,
crack.
Yeah. As long as I fit into it and I don't bump my head and crack his glass, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I'll be able to get in. He had a Pan America before, and I fit into that barely. And this is smaller.
Yeah, but it's a cool car.
Yeah,
It really is.
What is the fine if you're caught driving a G1 by yourself? If you have a friend who is a G1 and you're driving them, that sounds weird because they don't have wheels. But if they're a G1 driver and you are driving by yourself, you are eligible for tickets that are covered under G1 Drive unaccompanied. It's $110, and a 30-day suspension for your first conviction, a 90-day for your second, and a dismissal from the graduated licensing program. You go away, you're not worthy. You have to start all over again. You lose all time and all money you've invested into the program. So even if that was like 8 months or seven and a bit months and you were about ready to do your G2, but because you messed up the third time, you get kicked out, you're done. You have to start again. In addition to that, anyone who gives you their car with permission to operate it, you're an unlicensed driver, effectively, they would be eligible for charges for allowing you to, permitting an unlicensed driver to do it. Because you're not licensed. You have a learning permit that it has a condition. So another factor is the insurance wouldn't cover you in the event of a collision.
Absolutely not. If you take a car, even with permission, and you're operating it without the proper conditions, your license, they won't cover you.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Got the suspension.
Insurance companies, they don't want to pay.
No, it's funny how they're like that.
You know what? If you give them an excuse not to pay, they won't.
So you smack up mom's car. Let's say mom's car is, nothing's cheap anymore. So that's a lot of money that's not being replaced. Privately owned e-scooters seem to be a gray area out here. I know it can't be on the highway. E-scooters. The big question is that an electric bicycle e-scooter? It looks like a scooter but isn't a scooter? Or do you mean a stand-up e-kick scooter? Because an e-kick scooter is prohibited in the city of Toronto anywhere. There are very strict rules as to what the pilot allows. 24 kilometers an hour is the maximum speed capable of these machines. If it can do 25 kilometers an hour on a flat surface, it's a motor vehicle and requires all sorts of other issues and still can't be in the city of Toronto because we've never opted into that program. But it definitely can't be on the highway like the expressways. So it really depends on what we're talking about. But yeah,
I've seen some videos out there where people have been caught for operating them.
100 kilometers an hour.
No insurance is the tickets what they're getting because it becomes a motor vehicle and they need insurance. And the ticket for no insurance is $5,000.
Minimum.
And they're saying, well, it's ridiculous. I can't get insurance on this. Well, there's your clue. You shouldn't be operating them on the road.
Yeah, there's a lot of vehicles out there like the electric unicycles, the e-kick scooters. How about the electric bicycles that look like motorcycles that, well, they have the wire connected, so it's limited to 32 kilometers, but the first thing people do when they buy them is disconnect the wire, and they do 80 kilometers an hour. Yep. It's a motorcycle, folks. That's all it is. Yep. It's just an electric one. Harley-Davidson sells one. So does a whole bunch of the other manufacturers. They're motorcycles.
Exactly.
But they're not legal for the road.
Just the same as an electric car is still a car, even though it's an electric car.
Well, what if you only do 32 kilometers an hour in it?
In your electric car?
Yeah, could it be an electric?
No exemption.
No, there's no exemption.
No
Too
exemption.
bad. Be a way. I mean, it would be great if we could do it. Actually, there's a whole bunch of low-powered vehicles that are coming into the market, and there's changes coming to the HTA to allow them, low-speed vehicles, which may change the accessibility for many people to get on the road because they'll be cheaper to operate.
Yep, absolutely.
So there are good things coming, but they have to conform to law.
Yep, and it takes time for it to implement and people to understand it and what they can and can't do.
Is true. What is this? Why is it not illegal to cross stripes of paint, even when it is yellow, amber stripes representing separate flows of traffic direction?
I don't know what you're asking.
We're talking about lines. Lines in the road. Why is it not illegal to cross a yellow line, a solid line? Because Ontario doesn't have a charge specifically for crossing the line, although we're the only province in Canada who does not have a charge for this.
And we used to.
We had a line charge? Really?
We did. Failed to drive in Mark Lane.
There you go. They took it off the books. But it wasn't...
Why? I have no idea.
No, we'll never know.
It was a tough one to prove in court. Is the lines there? Are they not there? What color were they? Are they fully visible? Were they not fully visible? All those things. So,
but there are conditions. You certainly can't do dangerous stuff. Unsafe passing, which is usually what that line represents, could be provable. So it depends. We wouldn't charge you for the line, but we charge you for your actions.
Drive left to center.
Yeah.
That's an offense there. If you go into the oncoming lane, if you're So there's a whole bunch of workaround charges, depending on what happens. If you're not driving within the lane, you're probably going to be held responsible for everything you do. You may be found to be the guy at fault.
Well, I would think probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Highly probably.
Yes. People drive over the maximum speed limit. Is there any buffer speed over the maximum speed limit? In other words, is there any room that you're allowed? Any free gimme space where you won't get a ticket?
Technically, no.
No, 1 kilometer and over the speed limit is technically speeding because the speed limit is the speed limit. And there's also a number of people who believe that if your speedometer isn't accurate, then that will get you out of the ticket because, we won't write the ticket because it's 2 kilometers. Here's a hint. Speedometers are actually they're over-reporting. So when you're doing 98, 99, it's saying 100 to keep you from going over. Usually.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Most of them are like the ones in the police car are calibrated and they're pretty accurate. Most other manufacturers
they're accurate at certain points.
Right.
And more or less, so they might be accurate at 60 and less accurate, but what they're going to do is over-report to keep you honest.
Yes.
And it's for your benefit. So when you go and say, well, it said only 110, so I wasn't really doing 115, chances are you were actually, going a little less. Yeah. And if you were doing 150, you were probably doing 148.
Yeah.
Which is also why we tend to, when we record you for stunt driving, I know many of my colleagues, including myself, would wait till you were doing 152 instead of 150. Because right on the line, you might be able to say in a defense, but you know what?
No, you're traveling 150.
You're still stunting.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Is the law about to change? What is this? Is the law about going too slow on a road? I can't speak today. Is there a law about going too slow on the road? That is not caused by traffic.
Yes.
So
Interfere with traffic.
Unnecessary slow driving.
And unnecessary slow driving. Both ones.
Yes. The deal is that you can't just crawl on the road. So in the event that people do crawl on the road, turtles do. If you are driving at 30 in a 100 zone and it's icy and slushy and stuff all over the place, and everybody else is doing 30 because that's the maximum you can do safely, that's the appropriate speed for the road.
That's reasonable.
Yeah. If you're doing it on the hot summer day because your car is misfiring and you're actually a hazard and everybody else is doing 100, that's not okay. It's
not unreasonable, and that's where you look at it and you go, does that make sense? Are you causing a danger there? And if you are, then that's what gets you pulled over.
And ultimately, it's to keep you safe. Because people are having the assumption that you're going at an appropriate speed. People make the same argument saying, well, I'm doing 140, and if you're doing the speed limit 100, you're the hazard. Well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Don't speed. Tim Shallow, are you going to be at ASKaTrafficCop today? Did I skip a question? I had to read the last question. I don't remember. I may have skipped the last question because I was getting ahead of myself. So if I had your question on screen, oh, wait, maybe I can quickly, did I catch it in time? Nope, I didn't catch it in time. I didn't. I got it right. So the delay on that one,
yep.
I was good. Are you going to be at Fan Expo this year? The answer is no. I don't think I will be. There was talk about doing it. A friend from the OPP really wanted to get a booth together. We discussed it. It's not going to be in the cards this year. But I met Tim Shallow's wife and son at the show last year, the year before. So I think it's a cool show. Have you ever been to
I have not.
It's a cool show. Maybe I would just go off duty. I think it's worth attending, but we won't have a booth there. Okay, let's see here. Is it true that human bile or vomit, rather than throw up, can affect your BAC on a breathalyzer? Well, if there's alcohol that's not digested and
it comes up as mouth alcohol?
Yeah, that's bleh,
it could.
Bleh. Yes, and that would be an opportunity where we'd wait a period of time to do the test because you couldn't.
And that's why there's two tests, and there's a certain time between the tests, and they have to both be kind of similar.
And you're monitored.
Yeah.
So if something happens, it'll change when the time this test is done. Like we won't do a test right after you eat something. Even chewing gum, there's alcohol in gum, depending on the type of gum.
Yep.
But we take that into consideration. We don't want to give you a false fail. That is not our plan.
Right.
And often we test people and they had not to, they were high enough to get taken to the station based on the machine, but by the time the test was done, they were below the legal limit, and they don't get charged. If we're not trying to manufacture charges, you either charge or you're not based on the evidence that is recorded.
No, I have also had one where they've been so intoxicated that they just couldn't do it. Just physically couldn't do it. Well, that's okay. I don't need the evidence of the over 80 charge. You are so impaired, and it's so well beyond a reasonable doubt.
And it's all recorded on camera.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
And just because you get charged for both impaired driving and over 80 operation, we only proceed on one anyways when we go to court. You'll only get convicted of one. Actually, you get convicted of both, but you get sentenced to one.
The one is just a contributing great piece of evidence. Yep. Okay. We talked about that. TikTok Dad says, so if you live in a van, you cannot be parked in a Walmart and drink.
Walmart is not a camping
zone.
It is. They offer you some benefits if you're traveling through and you need to pull off the road for a few hours and stay. You can't set up your...
You can't live there.
Can't pull out your awning. You can't, set up your lawn chairs, sit outside in the parking lot and have a couple of drinks. No.
And you have to take into consideration that the concept of converting it to a domicile is because you're not leaving. But the average motor vehicle is planning to go somewhere again. And that's where the problem is. And if you're just parked in a place that is not a campsite, not a long-term stay place,
right,
we're going to proceed based on the belief that you have the ability to leave and you're planning to leave.
Yep.
Even if you just say you're not planning to leave. Can I turn on red light? What is this? Let me put it up bigger on the screen. Can I turn right on red light with taking any stop should be okay?
Can I right turn on red light with taking any stop should be okay? I'm not getting what your question is, but we can summarize it up. You can pull up to in the right lane to make a right turn on a red. You have to come to a complete stop. You can only proceed when it is safe to do so. That means looking, making sure, checking pedestrians, oncoming traffic, things like that. If it is not signed that you cannot do
That's what I was waiting for.
Then you can.
Yeah, there's responsibilities that you have to make sure you hit. And pedestrians aren't any of those because we are seeing people who get struck crossing the street because someone's in a rush and they're getting into the habit of not stopping. And that's a very high risk situation.
And the problem is they're looking left for the oncoming car and turning right.
Can you drive someone else's car without being insured on it but have full license?
Depends.
We talked about this a little earlier in the show, and that is where, my buddy, the question earlier was, my buddy says I can't borrow his car because insurance says nobody under the age of 25 or nobody with a G2 can drive it. It's entirely possible. And certainly, you might be able to borrow a friend's car with their permission if your license covers that type of vehicle and they gave you permission to, and it's insured. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's not a condition on there that you're not able to drive it.
And I said it before, and I'll say it again. It's legal for you to drive a car that you're insured, that you're licensed for, and is insured. From the police perspective, we don't have a problem. Whether or not they'll cover you is a different story, and that becomes a problem for the owner because when you get into a crash and they say, "Well, thanks very much," we're not
even if
covering
it's not
it.
your fault, even if somebody runs into you and you put the claim in, they'll say, "No, you shouldn't have been driving." Part of your condition's not
any reason not to pay.
Yep.
Is a construction speed zone or zone speed limit only enforced when workers are present?
No, the fines are higher when workers are present, but the speed limit is valid anytime.
The original speed limit, because the orange signs aren't regulatory. So I've always questioned this. The orange signs, my understanding is they're not enforceable. So I don't understand how that works, honestly.
But you'll see a sign there saying that speed fines doubled when workers are present. So it gets treated the exact same way as a community safety zone where the speeding fines are doubled. So if workers are present and you get stopped, even doing the original speed, your fine will be doubled.
Fun stuff. I don't see these very often. Now, in the city of Toronto, and this is why I say speed zones and so on don't make sense to me when it's the orange signs. In the city of Toronto, we actually put up white and black regulated signs when we're changing the speed, even if it's temporary.
Yes.
But on the highways, I don't think they do that the same way, or at least I've not seen it.
Oh, I don't know.
I've seen orange ones, and it's just put up by the construction company as a caution.
Right.
All right. So there you go. Hopefully that we got your answer the way you wanted it. Let's see here. Hello, I realize, what is this? Hello, I realize you are traffic cops. Is there a forum to ask other questions? You're here, and we are cops as well as traffic cops. Traffic policing is a specialty that is on top of that of policing.
Yeah, if you're asking things about firearms or asking things about other things like that, we have knowledge in it. We're all police officers, but that's not our specialty. I don't know if there is one. I know Toronto Police don't have one for anything.
We're kind of like the only ones who do this way, but we can either give you the answer if we have it or direct you to the right people to get it. So by all means, ask the question. Okay, in Keswick, people ride dirt bikes and quads on residential roads all the time. Is it lawful? The answer is for quads, it might be if that jurisdiction allows it, and I think they do, because I think I used to see snowmobiles all the time in Keswick.
So snowmobiles are different from ATVs or quad bikes. Dirt bikes, absolutely not.
Nowhere in the province.
So there are rules where, under certain conditions, under certain roads that the municipality has opted into, to allow ATV riders to ride on the far right-hand side of the road. Their speed limits are quite low when they're operating on the roadway, but it allows them to get from one trail to another trail. If the speed limit is less than 80 kilometers an hour, you have to travel at 20. If the speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour or more, you have to travel at no more than 50 kilometers an hour. But it's a good option should you need to go from one trail to another trail.
If the jurisdiction allows it, because municipalities make that decision. Toronto is one that says no.
Right.
We say no to a lot of things.
We do. But it doesn't make sense to have ATVs running around here because there's no trails around here.
No, and that would just take up bicycle space.
Right.
Can a G2 driver drive on the highway by themselves without a supervising G? If you have a G2 license, I would expect you to know the answer to this question. But the answer is yes. You're a G2 driver. You can drive anywhere in the province. The only restrictions are that you have no alcohol in your blood, no drugs in your system, and that you have, between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m., a restricted number of people under the age of 20, aside from your immediate family. And that's, I guess, to prevent you from being the party car.
Yep, that's exactly what it's for.
So if you're in the first 6 months of being a G2 driver, and I think there's also a young person designation to it. I don't remember. If you're over a certain age, it may not apply. But
no, I think it is the first 6 months of any G2.
Any G2?
Yeah.
That would make it one person under the age of 20, aside from immediate family. And if in the second 6 months, you can have up to 3 people who are not immediate family under the age of 20. But if everyone is old like me, then you can have as many people as you have seatbelts.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Somebody asked on the weekend if they could drive their pickup with a seat in the bed of their truck bolted facing outward with seatbelts, and the answer is no. But it made me think of all this stuff at that time, because unless it was stock, unless it came like that from factory, like there was a one Rambler type pickup Subaru, maybe had a
the Subaru Rat. Yes, it actually had seats in the back facing backwards, bolted, seat belted, covered over by a roll bar. That they manufactured and was lawful.
So that would be grandfathered.
And you know what? Riding in the back of a pickup truck used to be lawful.
Because of a loophole that was closed.
That's right.
And it was that as long as all other seats were occupied, then you could sit without a seatbelt if all seats were occupied.
Yes.
And that's where they got away with it. But I saw a picture and actually shared it online. It was 2 gentlemen in the trunk of a car with the trunk open, driving in Ontario. It was not good. So I had to educate everybody about stunt driving and trunk driving.
Yes.
What is this? Is it legal to drive in a HOV? First, I'm like, HOVAC. What's that? What's a HOVAC? HOV lane in traffic. I see a lot of single drivers drive in the HOVAC lane. I've never seen it written that way.
Nope.
So there are certain vehicles that are permitted. So buses can drive in that lane. Taxis and limos, I believe, have the ability to be there.
It all depends. Different jurisdictions, different roads allow different things.
There's certain HOV lanes that actually you can buy a permit to drive alone.
Yep.
So if we're talking 400 series.
The hot lanes.
Hot lanes.
High occupancy vehicle toll.
Hot.
Yeah. So it all depends on what the signage says.
Mm-hmm.
Some jurisdictions have 2 occupants plus. Some have 3 occupants plus. Some allow motorcycles, some don't. Some allow green
Really?
vehicles.
I thought
some
all
don't.
were. Oh, but I thought the 400 series were all motorcycles.
I believe the 400 series are.
And
But we have an awful lot of HOV lanes in the city of Toronto.
But those are technically multi-use diamond lanes, not true HOV lanes. So they look like HOV lanes, but they fall under because they're municipal law instead of the true HOV. I think has to be 400 series,
Right.
but it's close enough. They look the same. Yeah. Hey, if you know somebody who might be interested in becoming a member of the Toronto Police Service, I wanted to let you know that we're hiring. And if you go to www.tps.ca/careers, you can have a look at this website, which is magical in every way, shape, and form. If you'd like to know about the job of police constable, which is what we are, well, you're a sergeant, but police constable is the job. There's rank, and then there's job.
Technically, the chief is the chief
Constable. There you go.
So there you go.
And then you got special constables to do other jobs, from booking prisoners to that's a station booker. Then they've got court officers. That's how we started. They do prisoner transportation and court security, and then they have divisional special constables who help out on the road. Sometimes they rotate between these roles. Some people just do one role and focus. But it's a great opportunity. Parking enforcement officer, it goes without saying that they enforce those who don't understand the concept of parking appropriately,
or letting the city move, because when you park improperly,
everybody suffers.
You're blocking everybody.
Oh yeah, they solve a lot of problems,
yes,
and cause a lot of frustration for those who create those problems. Communications operators are those magical people who answer your 911 call, transfer you to transfer the information you give to the dispatcher, so police officers can actually be sent to go and help you. Lateral hires are police officers from other jurisdictions coming to work in this magical city, and then auxiliary officer, which is truly what I did before I became a court officer, and actually did both at the same time for many, many years. Auxiliary officers volunteer their time giving back to the city. It's one of the most unique ways you can contribute as a volunteer. I think it's amazing. Even if you have no intention of ever becoming a police officer, becoming an auxiliary officer is an amazing way to give back. And I suggest it for everybody. 18 plus who has a G license. Now, civilian roles, I press this button because we have a lot of positions outside of those listed. And we still have only the 3 that were on last week. Custodian, intermediate technical analyst, and communications operator. So if you know anybody who would be a good fit for one of these 3 positions, have them go to www.tps.ca/careers and apply, because these jobs aren't up forever. And when they're gone, they're gone for a while. They do come back sometimes. That's it. We got some dad jokes, and then we went late. We went long. Okay, do we start with the quote, or do we go right into the dad joke? Let's start with the quote.
All right.
This is the miracle that happens every time to those who really love. The more they give, the more they possess. Rainer Maria Reich? Is that I don't know that person. But it's a good thing. So when you give, or when you love, they give, and they have more because they give. I like that. I'm down with that. Okay. What did the janitor, and we're hiring for custodian, what did the janitor say when he jumped out of the closet? Supplies.
Supplies.
Yeah, I like that.
That's worth it. Yeah.
That gets the hi-hat hit.
Yep.
Okay. And then dad joke. Did we not get Star Wars dad jokes today? Come on, Peter. Are there any Star Wars dad jokes that you can share? We got one first. We're going to do this one. Dad joke. I had a nightmare that I was a muffler. I woke up exhausted.
Not bad. Not bad.
I like that too. Okay, so Peter has determined that he was going to not permit the Star Wars dad jokes because they didn't meet his editorial review. Really? Linda says, you forgot to say hi anymore. No, I didn't forget to say hi. However, I've been moderated. So Peter's got to go into a meeting. We've got to sign off, but it has been a magical day. Not here tomorrow. Hope to be back here on Wednesday. And what can I tell you about what we can do in the meantime? No, that's not the button I wanted to press. Cancel. I'm going to put a recruiting video on because I put it on every time, and I think it's great.
All right.
It's a good one. All right. Have a wonderful day. Park legally, drive safely, drive sober, and we'll see you Wednesday.
Wednesday's a good day. We'll see you then.
Your future career starts with a vision. A vision of opportunities ahead. where you can see a path to a noble career, serving the city of Toronto. Where do you see yourself? Toronto Police Service. Apply today.